Hi, I'm Dalton Britt with FLO-TITE'S Valves and Controls. I've been with the company about 10 years now. I started in shipping and receiving, kind of worked my way up through assembly, production, been over on the Maxil side, and now I'm in sales, outside sales for now. Today I'm going to be going over the Multichoice 200-300 series. It's our bread and butter valve. Had it for 30 plus years. Been selling it for a very long time. Never have any issues with it. Start off, it's a full port 3-piece valve, class 1500 WOG. On the 3 and the 4 inch sizes, it does derate down to a 1250 WOG. Connections, we have MPT, socket weld, butt weld, flange, threaded, and also a tank pad. Now on the tank pad, you can do tank pad on one side, flange on the other. That's what the normal is. You can also do tri-clamp, threaded, weld in place, whatever your application needs. We offer this valve sizes all the way from a 1/4 inch all the way up to a 4 inch. As you can see here, you have your name on this side, FLO-TITE, the 1500 WOG, what the material is and the size. And then on the other side here you have the tag. You have your seat material first, your stem packing, and then your body seal, and then whether the valve has a Viton seal in the stem or not. And that's just kind of some ways to indicate what valve we're talking about. FLO-TITE, we've been doing this valve, like I said earlier, for 36 years. One thing I like to always point out about this valve is it does have the cap screws on the end. You can remove the end caps, swing the body out, replace the stem packing, body seals, the seats, whatever you want to do, put it back in, put the bolts back together, and it just makes the process so much easier. This valve, like many of our other valves, share the Vanguard stem sealing system. What that means is you have a stem packing that's V-ring, and it starts here and goes up, and then you also have a thrust washer on top, and then also in between there's a Viton O-ring. Another unique feature about this valve is the Vanguard stem sealing system. You have 3 levels of sealing. What you have that on the bottom of the stem is a thrust washer, and then you have a Viton O-ring, and then you also have the 3 Vanguard V-ring packing. And then on top of that you have the bevel washers for a live loaded stem. You have a nut with a locking tab to lock that nut in so it doesn't rise up and come off the stem. And then you also have your locking lever handle, which is common on most of our ball valves. The locking lever handle is one benefit that FLO-TITE offers on almost all of our ball valves. Other manufacturers, you have to actually pay a little bit extra for this feature. This is pretty unique because you can put a padlock here, and it doesn't have any movement or anything, or you can pull it up and padlock it open, whatever you prefer. Another feature is the anti-static ball grounding device. You have a spring with the ball that grounds the ball to the stem, and then also the stem grounds itself to the body, so any kind of static electricity or anything. ISO mounting pad, it comes standard on most of our ball valves. You take the handle off, you got your bracket. You can put a bracket on here for, like I said, it's ISO with a double D stem. Another cool thing about the ISO mounting pad is we actually have our prefabricated stem extensions you could just mount right on top. What that does is lift the mounting pad up, and then you could also put an actuator on it, still have use of the locking lever stem packing, and also this travel stop. With this one valve, one unique feature is you can actually create 55 different valves with this one valve because of the end caps. So you replace the end caps, put different end caps, as I was talking about earlier, socket weld, threaded, flanged, and so forth. The cap screws is one thing that I always like to point out. You have cap screws here, take it off, replace the end cap, makes it very easy. I know other manufacturers, they have actually the whole bolt going through the valve, and you have a nut on one side, and that makes it a little more time consuming to install these valves, and you got more parts you could actually lose. Great valve choice, be installed in difficult to reach tight spaces. Like I was saying, you take it apart, weld it in, put the center body in, and that's all you'd ever have to change going forward. Easier for putting it on board ships, busy piping systems. Cap screw design also eliminates miscellaneous center body end caps, causing the body seal to pinch at times. The body seal is actually right here. This is our body seal, and it actually has a groove for it to sit in the valve here, and it actually sits around the seat, and that's what makes it easier when you put the valve end cap back on. You don't have to worry about losing that body seal or it falling out, and it can kind of become a little tedious as well. Another thing I want to point out about the cap screws here is when we are assembling stainless on stainless, we always use anti-seize, and our factory does as well. That makes it so it doesn't gall, and then if you don't use it and you have to take this end cap out, sometimes it could gall up, and then you have more of a problem you have to deal with. That can cause major leaks. Another thing about the cap screws is it eliminates tightening it down too tight for extremely high torques. As I was saying earlier about the different manufacturers, you can actually tighten that down and actually bend the ears on the end caps, and then your torques go outrageous. If you have a actuator on it, it'd be harder to turn, and you'd have time going in figuring out what's wrong and why the torque's so high, when it's something so simple as just a bolt, when you just easily tighten it down to a specified torque, no problem. Another feature we could offer on the Multichoice 200-300 series are weld-in-place end caps. The weld-in-place end caps, it just makes things so much easier for contractors when they're trying to install. What it has is, you can see heat dissipating rings right here, so when you're welding it in, the heat can only travel but so far, and as it gets to each ring it has to travel up and then down the ring. What that does is protect your seat from getting burned up during welding due to the high temperatures and different things like that. We also offer different seating materials in these valves. The 200-300, no matter what end cap you're using, we have a SuperTech TFM as our standard. We also have a carbon field TFM, which is SuperTech 3, a 50-50, which is 50% 316 stainless steel powdered Teflon. One thing I always like to point out is our weld-in-place design valve. It can cut down on cost savings and time. You can take this valve here and you probably won't even have 30 minutes in installing it, when a standard valve, when you have to take it apart, weld it in, put it back together, you could have up to 2 hours just in installing one valve. And another thing you always like to point out is you save about 3 inches of pipe in the line just because you have the extended ends. That's always a good thing. Different applications that we like to sell this valve in, just to name a few, power generation being one, oil and gas, food, pharmaceutical plants, main steam supply, superheated spray, boiling spray, different applications. It's always a good universal valve to offer in different applications and different processes along in your plant. Some key selling features, I just wanted to go back over this valve and kind of show you guys. We'll start with the Vanguard stem sealing system and kind of go back into it a little more in depth. Just kind of taking it apart here. You have your different levels. This is the first level with the actual stem packing. You can see it's kind of got a V ring and it kind of fits into itself. You can also use this by inverting it and putting it back on the stem for any kind of vacuum service applications. That way, the flow's going down. You have your first right here with the SuperTech 3 carbon field Teflon thrush washer, and then you have your O-ring, and it kind of moves itself up from there. And then on top of that, you have two bevel. We have a packing follower. Then you have two bevel washers that actually compress once you put your nut back on, and it compresses to make a live loaded stem packing. This is a cap screw. As I was saying earlier, you have anti-seize. You can see the residue from the anti-seize on it to keep it from galling into stem packing, into the body of the valve when you're trying to install it. This is your body seal, your seat. Your body seal actually has a groove for it to fit in, so it fits in there pretty snug. So if you're trying to, put the valve together, you don't have to worry about the body seal falling out while you're trying to put the end cap on. See, this is a ball. One cool thing about this ball is it actually interchanges between the F-150s and then the 200, 300 series. We also offer this with a V-ball, 15, 30, 60, and 90. Also offer a slotted ball for different, applications of control. See, your locking lever handle. As you can see, it's got grooves that fits into the mounting pad to keep it locked from moving. And then this is the weld in place end cap disassembled from the valve. One thing I also wanted to say, in this valve we can offer cavity fillers. Cavity fillers go over the ball as such, and what that does is it protects the ball so nothing, and a lot of pharmaceutical plants love this feature because it doesn't let any of the media get caught behind the ball in the cavity. So it blocks that and forces it down the line. This is our media containment. So what you have here, the media containment goes on top of the mounting pad like this, and you have two areas that actually contain any kind of stem leaks. So if this media containment fits on the HPF high performance 3-piece ball valves, the 200, 300 multi-choice, and the flange F-150s, it's universal for every one of them. So if you have one of these valves in line, the stem starts leaking, tighten down the stem pack and that doesn't fix the leak, you have it going into the atmosphere, you just slap one of these on there, tighten it down, and you've contained your stem leak. That can save so much money, so many costly repairs just by purchasing one of these right here. This media containment, actually we just had it certified for ISO 15848-1. That's a fugitive emissions certification from ISO. You can also put a gauge here on this port. You just take this little cap out, put a gauge here, and you can see if your stem is leaking, and how many ever you'll have in line, and see which one's leaking and where, so that when you do have a shutdown you'll know which one you need to replace. That can save so much in costly repairs and fines. So that's one thing I always like to point out about the media containment. I also want to show you the difference in a media containment and a stem extension. There is a little bit of a height difference, and this would be an exhaust port, but the mounting pad is the same, so you can actually stack the media containment on the stem extension or double up the stem extensions depending on how high, how much insulation you might need or how high you actually need to go. In closing, I just want to thank everyone for visiting today and learning a little more about the Multichoice series. For more information, please request the Tech Bulletin 4520. That will be for the standard Multichoice, or you can get the 46-19 Tech Bulletin, and that will be for the extended end weld in place design. Or you can email us at sales@FLO-TITE.com or visit our website at www.FLO-TITE.com. Thank you.